What up, world? DJ on the map. What shopping and screwing? How we do? Because we just had the recent restriction list, which is going to be in effect from September the 1st. So we're going to make sure our puppet list is on lock. You know how we do. Nyaboot, Cendrillmon, Digimon, all the puppets up in this business. So in this video, I'm going to go review my new rendition of how I'm taking puppets now, after absolutely dominating at my locals and then taking a sweet hard L and coming last place. And let me tell you, that was a tough pill to swallow. I ain't gonna lie. I need some water up in this bitch. So yeah, what I did is take it back to the drawing board, see what worked, see what didn't work, refine, retune, and we get back in the ring. So I want to share the latest version on my list for you guys. So if this is the video for you, then stick around and enjoy. And if you're new to the channel, like what you see, make sure you subscribe and turn the notification bell, because I do videos on the reg. Right, you know what time it is, people. What, yes sir.
Digital gate open.
Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty. Starting off with the eggs, still remaining the same. BT22 Nyabootmon, that's just obviously going to be the egg on the absolute mainstay, because ideally with this list, and especially now, you kind of want to be kind of setting up further. You might not always want to attack all the time, so meaning that you can effectively, you know, get some draw power off of deleting a puppet or a token is going to be vital for you to just obviously keep up that consistency and also keep your hand size looking kind of healthy. So that there concludes for the eggs. Going over to the rookies. Rookies have had a bit of a slight shake up in terms of the ratio, so let's run it through. Your best one is going to be your searcher shoe, just facilitate so many plays, especially when you go into Digimon and go to your Nyabootmon. Just be able to reveal free net 2 cards is always going to be the worth. Obviously that inheritable, just shrinking the enemy's security, is always going to be good by additional 3000. Then the next slot is going to be the EX7. This is just great for memory efficiency, especially if you're warping into a Shapio or going into a level 4. Excellent plays that you can be doing with this card for real. And once again, similar inheritable to the searcher. Then we go and increase on the Digimon. We did originally have this at 2, now we rocked it at 3. The reason being is because now that we're actually trying to climb up to our level 7, sometimes, you know, we're not always going to have a blocker out live, but the inheritable here, it means that we can able to actually stop the attack. So that's going to be helpful for us to trigger and delete some of our other puppet trait Digimon, which then can trigger either Kaguyamon's effect or Nyabootmon's effect to obviously select a Digimon in order to give it that minus DP and also play out a Digimon, which is always going to be great for us. So I've definitely increased on that, and also the recursion is really good there as well, because we have kind of changed our level 5 ratios there as well. So Digimon, definitely an excellent staple to increase. Then lastly, we just run the one of the BT22 Nyabootmon. This is just great for one, having an inheritable that means that we can shrink neg 2k DP off of the opponent's Digimon, and also on play able to give one of our puppet trait Digimon blocker, which is going to be good for us right there. Ideally we put it on this one, we block with that, get the on deletion to put it onto something else, which is going to be handy for us. So that concludes that for the rookies. Still the 12, but just shifting the ratios. Now going over to the champions. Champions remain the same, so I'm not going to go too depth in this. So we go with the promo Shushu. This is just staple, like you should not be running less than this. Excellent out of security, excellent in your hand. The barrier goes hard. Being able to play out tokens when digivolving, and also then that token then deletes at the end of the opponent's turn, just means that we can kind of force out any Kaguyamon or Nyabootmon effect there at the end of the turn if the opponent doesn't manage to do anything, which is obviously helpful for us. Just a really good card. Also amazing to play off of the Mirai effect there as well, because effectively you can just play this down for 1, which is going to be good. So it means that you get 2 bodies on board. Then we still rock with the EX2 Nyabootmon. Just helps us to get our Tamers out, which is always going to be great. Obviously, seeing it early game is definitely going to be beneficial, especially if you just want to like kind of, you know, throw out a searcher shoe, you manage to get maybe this and a Tamer, and then effectively you can evo into this and get that Tamer out, which is always going to be the worth when you try to set up early on. Then we still keep the 2 Kakeshimon. Once again, similar to the Digimon, that inheritable is really solid. So depending on your stack, if you have the Digimon and this, it means that you can effectively end 2 attacks, which is really solid. And then off the back of that, because you've deleted a puppet trait Digimon, you're able to then effectively trigger maybe Kaguyamon's effect or Nyabootmon effect there as well. Then lastly, I think you're still a staple. I would love to not run this, but it's just a good insurance policy, especially when you're versing against like the mirror, or you're versing a deck that has very high Digivolve, because that's how you kind of out puppets really. But this is just very solid, because if you get the Sweep 3, you pretty much get all the effects of Digivolve protection and also minus DP protection to the end of the opponent's turn, and then you also get the reboot and blocker there as well, which once again really handy depending on the matchup that you're facing with. Especially, I just think you should always be running one of this card. So that concludes there for the champions. Now going over to the ultimates. Ultimates had a little bit of a change in ratios. So this one still remains the same. Cendrillmon, just the best in slot in regards to you just climbing up your Evo line for pretty much next to nothing, which is going to be great. Also, you can do this off the on play there as well. Value, for real, for real. Then the Inevitable. The thing I love about puppets, that Inevitable is just very strong and very consistent across the board. This is also a very strong card if you want to place off the Mirai there as well, because you can effectively reduce the cost by 3, and then you're obviously playing this for the cost of 4, and then you're cheating up into a level 6 puppet trait Digimon for free, which is once again really good for if you want to stabilize on the board. So we go in now with the 2 EX7 Chaperones. We did manage to get the champion stamp version of this as well, which I've got to thank everyone for helping out on this, especially Rich Life, TCG. Absolutely amazing cop from him. So really just helped out, just, you know, make this deck max rarity. So this is really handy, and the reason why I've increased this is because just building that board a lot further, utilizing Heinemon's effect to effectively filter my trash in order to get key pieces, really does come up quite clutch right there. Also has overclock there too, and once again the Inevitable is very consistent along with the rest of the level 5s. And then we just run the one of the Warp Chaperone. Like I say, these probably could alternate. It really depends, obviously, your local scene and when you go to larger tournaments. This is solid because, obviously, you know, when we can just use the Warp, it's really good and really efficient. Best candidate is definitely your EX7 Shumon, because you could be able to reduce that cost by 1, so effectively Evo for the cost of 2, depending on how many promo risks you have out. So spend those, can be pretty much a free Evo. Then if you got Emblem, you just further cooking on that point. So really solid card, but I do value this a lot more, just because it helps me just go a bit wider. Sometimes getting that extra body out can be the difference between having an additional swing, especially if you have Kaguyamon out. It's another Alliance target that you can go in and go hard. So that then concludes for the ultimates. Now going over to the megas. Let's keep it nice and simple here. So we go with the free Kaguyamon. This is once again just a really good strong linchpin of the deck. Just very hard to kind of work around this, and depending on obviously your board setup, if you do have the Mechamon out, it's very hard to kind of get rid of this girl, just because, you know, being able to give all of our puppets tokens Alliance and blocker is just huge all turns. And then when a Digimon is deleted, we're able to delete the opponent's lowest level Digimon there, which is really good, because if depending on if they've got any tokens that are not level based, effectively you would target their main body, which is solid. And then at the end of turn, we're able to play out a puppet trait Digimon level 4 or lower from our trash for free, which once again is huge. And depending on your timings, depending if you got Kugumon and Cendrillmon out, effectively you can order the timings there. So obviously you could trigger this first, play out I don't know, promo Shushu, and then from there go for that overclock there, use that token for that overclock, and then boom, happy days. Then speaking of the tokens, we still run our best girl at a solid 2. The reason why I like Cendrillmon, it's just a different way in order for us to remove a body. Just, you know, being able to neg 6k, which is not once per turn, is very huge and really helps out. Obviously you can go round with the BT22 route, which is absolutely fine, but I feel like with that, if you can't get into your, you know, Nyabootmon, sometimes the opponent doesn't see it as much as a threat and will push out and try and get rid of it easier, versus if they try and push out and they can't finish the dinner, then this will certainly get rid of their stack next when the turn passes, which is sick. So definitely helpful in the mirrors there as well, because obviously you can swing and then you swing again and give that minus 12 and then from there obviously they can't necessarily do anything at that point, which is once again really good. just overall a very solid level 6. And then we've gone fully in onto the Nyabootmon. So we've actually increased this to 3. The reason being is Nyabootmon is just once again a very strong card, and I felt like kind of before early stages of the format, I felt like, you know, running 2 was absolutely fine, but now I feel like at times I really, when I'm in Nyaboot, I'm just in such a stronger position where the effect enables us to kind of control when we want to proc it, versus Kaguyamon, the opponent can work around that. Whereas Nyaboot, you know, we have a lot of options. We have our inheritors which can end attack, and then from there, depending on how wide our board is, we can then essentially play out our body, go slightly wider whilst negging X amount of DP off the opponent's Digimon of our choosing, which is once again very powerful right there. Because we are leaning towards Emblem in this list, getting into this can be very, very cheap and affordable, means that we can keep turn and be very powerful with our effects. And also, minus DP to the end of the opponent's turn is very strong right there. So we have gone more in onto the Nyaboot. So that concludes there for the Megas. Now let's go to the options. So options are relatively still the same here. Not much change. So we go with the 2 trainings. So before we did run 3, we have knocked it down to do more just because of space, and we've actually upped another card, which relatively does similar thing, but just gives us a little bit more value, and it's within archetype. And then we still have the 3 of the emblems. Emblems just once again very strong card. We can cheat out a lot of things. Tamers, Digimon from trash. It's just a very strong card, and just being able to reduce our Evo costs by 3 by just playing the game and us just spending Narissa is once again very, very strong right there. So Emblem is going to be powerful with across all Liberator decks. Now onto the Tamers. So Tamers had a massive reshuffle, guys. Reshuffle. And I will happily admit that, you know, for my initial builds, I was wrong. I was wrong. I misjudged some of the cards too early. So in reflection, I have tweaked the ratios, and this is working out a lot better. So we have increased Mirai to 4. Reason being is because it's just really good early game. It can really help us set up beautifully. It can really help us build our board efficiently, as well as kind of getting around decks that actually stun Tamers. This can kind of work around that, because you are just literally bottom decking this Tamer to play out a Narissa Kinasagi or a Puppet Trader Digimon for the reduced cost by 3, which is actually really massive. So there's a lot of funky plays that you can do. There's a lot of unconventional plays, which keeps the opponent guessing. It's never really necessarily a sad day seeing this in your hand or from security. Mid game, it can kind of be a bit cluttered, but early game, it is fantastic. Then we still run the promo Rissa, and we've knocked this down to 3 instead of 4. Reason being is that because realistically, I mean, 4 was kind of more of a stress test from my side. I just wanted to kind of get maximum efficiency in regards to just seeing this card frequently. But due to like Mirai and the amount of search that we do have, I'm more than happy to have this at 3 right there. And then obviously when I essentially Evo, effectively I can tuck this and I can play out that, and I can play out a shoe, which gives you some crazy value right there. Now the things that we've actually added. Starter deck Orisa. This is actually beating my expectations massively, and has helped out in a lot of scenarios in testing and also at locals. I think with this, just being able to, you know, it's a condition is quite easy, especially with the promo Shoo, just play out token, blam, suspend this, and then once again, if I have an emblem, I can literally just kind of chain up from that point. Really helpful. On top of that, it works well with certain other tamers, such as, she made the cut, BT22 Orisa, which we just run at 1. Works really fantastic with this there too. And there's definitely a bit of an intricate sequence that you can effectively do with these cards before the turn has actually started. So for example, if goes to your turn, obviously you trigger this at the start of main. Obviously it kind of works like the scramble, so you would tuck that. You would play in Orisa if you don't have any Digimon. If you don't have any Digimon out, well, not even if you have a Digimon out, you would just play Tamer. And then if you don't have a Digimon out, you are able to play a Shumon from hand, without paying. Actually, is it from hand or is it from trash? I swear by, oh, it's from trash. Without paying the cost, so that goes there. Then effectively you can suspend this to give that rush, and then effectively if you have emblem, because emblem is your turn, so it is technically, you know, even though it's a start of main, it's technically your turn. You effectively, because this is suspended, you could trigger emblem to then evo into a Digimon for the reduced cost by 3. Then effectively you could suspend these to gain that memory. Depending on the sequence and where you at, you could effectively, say if you had 2 emblems out, you could literally just consecutively chain those together, and then you would unsuspend, because then it's actually the start. Then it's actually the start of your main. Well, yes, then it becomes to the start of your turn at that point, because you've done all that before that's actually initiated. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how that would work realistically, because that's how you're able to give that then rush, because it's your turn. Nice little cool combo there. Drop it in the comments what you think of that little bit of sauce. But that concludes there for the Tamers and the deck list. Let me know what you think in the comments. So, there you have the list, guys, ready for you to tweak, amend to your playstyle. So, a lot of questions come in regards to puppets and what do I think to how puppets going to kind of sit in the upcoming meta. Personally for me, I think Puppets is in a very solid position in terms of its overall game plan. It has so many tools that can kind of make it stand out within the meta and combat it pretty well. There is going to be that kind of worry that, obviously with the paired ban of Chaos Valderarm and the Sakuya X and the Talmon, is that most likely they're probably going to lean over to then having Rune Mode. And Rune Mode, unfortunately, shafts us quite a bit. I mean, the Nabootmon can do the Nabootmon things, but it can't protect us on the freaking turn when it passes back to us and we're under a freaking 10k blanket. Unfortunate. So there's definitely going to be that, and that's what we can probably going to see moving forward from Sakuya, unless the hit has really been quite detrimental to their overall game plan. We'll have to see how the meta matures. But I think in regards to the tools that Puppets has, it has so many strong tools in its arsenal. It's got a lot of Tamers that do so many different things, and it can build out relatively wide really efficiently. So I think Puppets is sitting in a decent spot. By Jove, it's not going to be a meta deck, but it's going to be, it can compete with the big boys, let's just say that. I think my direction of changing my kind of like my mega ratio, so leaning more to 9 boots, was definitely the play. I feel like at the moment there was times where in my previous build, like, I didn't have Nyaboot in hand, which at times could have really helped just solidify that board. Now that I do have that Nyaboot, just kind of going into Nyaboot makes such a difference. Because effectively, you know, the player can't essentially work around my effect compared to how the people can kind of work around Kaguyamon, because Kaguyamon's a mandatory effect, whereas Nyaboot is not a mandatory effect, which is actually really helpful. So it really kind of puts the opponent in a situation where, like, okay, should I attack, should I not attack? And depending on what tokens you have out, if there's any tokens that are blown up before the end of goes into your turn, effectively that will trigger, and then I can trigger Nyabootmon's effect to play out a level 3 or level 4 or lower, and then minus DP their Digimon, which puts them in an awkward predicament, whilst also kind of us working around being, you know, kind of having summoning sickness in that sense. So Nyaboot definitely is a strong, solid card. Just for me, when I'm playing the deck, I just need to make sure that sometimes, you know, I don't always have to go to Nyaboot. Like, passing over 6 can be a little bit detrimental depending on where the memory's kind of sitting. So that's definitely something for me to kind of readjust in that sense, because like from last locals, there was definitely some plays that I did which I was like, why the frick did I go to Nyaboot when I could have literally just gone to Kaguya, sit on Kaguya, and instead I go into Nyaboot, I trip into a freaking Sora and Kari that made freaking Adventure's whole win come live, which wasn't great right there. So it's little things like that that I've just kind of got to readjust to. and just kind of stick to my original kind of place. I'll be quite reserved and just go for that big burst turn finish that I always do. But overall, definitely happy with the list. Definitely happy with kind of using starter deck Orisa in there as well. The memory said I didn't think that she would kind of have a place, but I actually am really enjoying using her. The fact that we do have Emblem that can play her out for reduced cost is actually really nice. So I'm not paying the half for. I'm playing that for free, or if I've either on top of the EX7 Shushu, effectively I'm just playing that for free anyway. Or effectively it would cost me 2. Obviously the cost of the Evo. Which is nice, and that's what I do like about Emblem as well. Like, I think we're going to that meta where there's going to be a lot of Tamer hate, and Emblem actually kind of fixes that quite nicely, because if they're going to blow up my Tamer, I can just use Emblem and play out that Orisa that they actually blew up. It won't get around like suspending and kind of locking down my Tamers, but at least it will be able to set up a Tamer whilst then further setting up her future play with the Emblem, which is always great. It might be that the list might actually start running 4 emblems, depending on how the meta shifts, especially for EX10. But overall, I think Puppets is in a very solid spot. I can't really think of like any other support I would want the deck to have. I think it definitely just has a good solid card pool that we can just really just play with and just kind of tweak and refine and so forth. So, you know what I mean, I'm going to be putting those reps in the standard. But guys, if you enjoyed the video, enjoyed the source, make sure you smash it with a like. It's standard, nearly up to 2K. Let's just make it happen. I'm locked in and ready to go. So stay safe, stay fly, and I'll catch you next one. That's your boy D Dread, off the mic.